everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I have such a great project for you today. This is a quilt that's based off an old pattern called the Prairie flower, which, you know how I love to take those old patterns and make them new with the pre-cuts. So let's take a look at this quilt behind me. Isn't this gorgeous? This is really fun. It's a 13-inch block right here, and it's sashed. And it's made of 2 different blocks, so it's going to be super easy to make, but it just has such a great look to it. So to make this quilt, what you're going to need is 1 packet of 10-inch squares. And by 1 packet, I mean 42. And we're using Gentle Breeze by Maywood Studios. It's a beautiful line, and I happen to love daisies, so I just think this is a really fun line, and I really like it. The other thing you're going to need is 3 1/4 yards of background fabric. And our background is this white here. The 3 1/4 yards will take care of this center stone, all your cornerstones, your sashing, and that first border. You're also going to need 1.5 yards for your outer border. We have a nice outer border out here, and it'll take care of that. Then you're going to need 1/4 yard for your sashing stones, and these are these little stones right here. And we just took 1/4 yard and cut ours out of that. So it's real easy to put together, a lot of fun to make. Let me show you how to do that. So this is the block we're talking about right here. And the block is basically made up of 2 components. It's these corner blocks right here, and then this petal block that falls in the middle of them. So the first block we're going to make today is our corner block. And what you're going to do for that is you're going to go through your pack, and you're going to pick 2 squares out of your pack that are contrasting colors. So I have this blue and this green, and we are going to cut these into 5-inch squares. So we're going to cut them right in half here, just like this. And then we're going to turn our ruler and put it right in half, just like that. And then we're going to have 4 5-inch squares like this. Then I like to stack mine. I'm going to separate these and stack them. So I'm going to put all my blues in one pile and all my greens in one pile, just like this. Now, because we cut these apart, you'll realize that we can also use charm packs for these. If you do that, you'll need 4 of them. We went with a layer cake because it was convenient for us. So now we've cut these up, and we need to make the corner blocks. You need to decide which block you want in your corner. I'm going to choose my blue. And to make this block, what we're going to do is we're going to take our background fabric, and we're going to cut 22.5-inch strips and cut those into 2.5-inch squares, which I have a bunch of them right here already done. All these little 2.5-inch squares. I've even ironed them. You know, instead of drawing the line diagonally, you can just press a line, and then that gives you a sew line. And so I've already done that as well. And so we're going to take 2 of these 2.5-inch squares, and we're going to put them on opposite corners, just like this. And we're going to sew on the line and then trim this part off. So let's do that to both opposite corners right here. We're going to come right over here to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew right on this line. Sometimes when we draw a line, we sew on either side. For this one, we're going to sew right on the line and just sew right down there. Then I'm going to flip it around and sew the other side. You're going to have to realign it. Nothing stays perfectly on there like we'd like, unless you pin it. You could pin that. All right, so now we're going to go right on the line. And then we're going to trim these off. Now you can use your rotary cutter to trim these, or you can use some scissors. I'm just going to use my scissors here. And you're going to trim about 1/4 inch. And then when we open these up, that's our whole completed block. So what I'm going to do now is take this over to the ironing board, press out these corners so they lay nice and flat. So you're going to do that to all 4 of those squares, and those are going to be your outer corner squares. Then we have to do the petal squares, the petal blocks, and to make that, you're again going to take your 2.5-inch squares, and you're going to sew 1 on this top corner right here. Again, I have them ironed in half, so you have a nice sew line. We're going to sew on that line, trim that off, and then we're going to put another one of these blocks right here, right next to it, like this. So this one will be trimmed off and ironed back, and then we'll attach this one. So we're going to do one side at a time. So let's go over the sewing machine, and we're going to do this one side. And I'm going to line it up on the corner. Sew on my line, right on the line. And then we're going to trim that. Just like this, trim it. Press it back. And you want to do this. You can't attach both of them at the same time, and because you'll end up with like a little pleaty thing right here. So now you're going to add your other corner over here, just like this. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the sewing machine. We're going to sew right on that line, trim it off, and press it back. So here is our other corner. Make sure it keeps lined up with the corner. That will keep your block square. All right. Now here is, we're going to trim this one, and we're going to press that back, and that's our petal block like that. Wasn't that easy? It just makes it really, really fun. I love these blocks where they look like they've got a bit of work, but when you start dissecting them, it's like, oh, I could do that. So then you're going to do that to all your blocks over there. Now I have a whole set of these over here that I've done. So I have these beige ones that are my petal block and these light blue ones that are my corner blocks. And I want to show you how this goes together. So we're going to put these petals in the middle, and these corner blocks are going to go facing in. So color in like this. So all your whites, you want to keep all your whites together and all your colors together. And these blocks are the four corners, just like this. And this really comes together actually like a 9 patch. Anytime you have 9 blocks you sew together, it's kind of a 9 patch type block. And so here's this. And remember, we're keeping all of our whites to the white and the colors to the colors like this. And then we've got to put our center square in there. So that center square comes out of your background fabric. You're going to cut 5 strips, 5 inches wide, and cut those into 5 squares. So you end up with 20 squares of that. You'll need 1 square for every center of the block. And this is what your block's going to look like. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew 3 rows of 3 together. And so I'm just going to pick these up and take them over to the sewing machine and sew them together. And always remember, it really helps to remember that you have background fabric to background fabric and print fabric to print fabric. So what I've done here is I've sewn all 3 of these rows together to make my flower, and I've pressed my top and bottom row to the outside this way and pressed my middle row to the inside this way, and that way when I put them together they're just going to nest beautifully. And so now I'm ready to put these together, and I'm just going to attach one to the next, and we'll go over to the sewing machine and do that. So here is I like to get started a little bit, make sure my first set of seams is nesting, get it lined out. You know, every time I pass a seam, I kind of stop and realign, make sure I've got it all together. And one of my seams just tried to fold under right there, but I could feel it with my finger, so I caught it. And then we're going to add that bottom row on here, and I'm just going to grab that and put it on here. Make sure everything lines up. Put it right sides together and sew down this one. We're going to match the solid fabric, our background fabric. Get started. Make sure we're nesting up here. Oh, that one wants to fold too. Make sure those stay laying down, and that will keep less fabric bulk, and it will just make it line up really nice. All right, we've got our block done, so let's press it. It's looking pretty good. So we're going to press it here. And again, I love to press from the top. I want to make sure that I don't have any pleats. And I could have had one right there if I didn't catch it. And then I'm going to flip this over. And any seams that are like wildly out of control, I will press down. All right, there we go. So this is the block we're looking for right now. And once you get your block done, you're going to do this 20 more times. And because we have them set up here, we've got 4 across the top and 5 down. This makes a pretty good sized block, about a 13-inch block. So let me show you how to lay these out, because this is really goes together so easily. Now, we did try one where it's all together, and that looks cool too. Do not be afraid to play with these layouts. We've sashed ours, but if you want to put them right together, you can do that, because it's just beautiful. So what we got here is, here's how they look when they're just stacked together, just like that. We went ahead and put our sashing in. Now, to do sashing, you want to measure the size of your block. And if your block is 13, that's what size you're going to cut your sashing. And I have some strips here cut already. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay them in between your rows, just like this. And you're going to sew those together. So you'll sew this to one block right here and iron it back, and then sew it to the other. Then when you're ready to add your sashing strips in between here, you're going to, again, just keep the same size. You've got a 13-inch sashing, and then you're going to put a block that you sewed the sashing, and that little sashing row, the little cornerstone block, that's what comes in between here. So when you put your top row together, this little sashing piece just goes in between each block as you set it up. And then when you start putting these together, again, just like this, your next row, you'll make the whole row where you put the sashing strip in, and then do another sashing strip with a block. So it just goes together really quickly and easily. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. So here's ours right here, 4 across, again, 5 down. This is going to give you a quilt that is about 75 by 89, pretty good size quilt. And I love the fabric and love the pattern. So we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Prairie Flower quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.